The mind will never find rest, for it is born of want, and want is the ceaseless unrest of being. There is no sanctuary beyond the endless craving that propels the wheel of illusion, no final place of arrival where the soul can exhale and be free. Before us lies only the barren truth that life is suffering, a constant tearing away from what is lost, a longing cast into a void that answers only with silence. This is the first breath of clarity, the cold dawn where the warmth of hope dissolves. To know this is to still the futile chatter, to quiet the restless demands that drown the spirit's fragile whisper. We live bound to a world whose promises are whispers on the wind, evanescent and cruel. The endless chase for satisfaction, the accumulation of goods, the conquest of pleasure, the pursuit of recognition is a dance with shadows that vanish when grasped. Modernity fashions itself as the savior, an intricate machine designed to serve desire. Yet it merely tightens the noose around the will. The more we feed this hunger, the more insatiable it becomes, revealing the desolate core beneath the glittering surface. Here, beneath the spectacle, lies the naked self, stripped of distraction and exposed to the bleakness of its own ceaseless striving. Suffering is not a transient malady to be cured or a puzzle to be solved. It is the condition of all living, the constant weight that pulls us back from the false summit of fulfillment. Every joy carries within it the seed of decay, every bond the shadow of loss. The world offers no refuge from this law, no shield to the inevitability of pain. Yet the will, obstinate and blind, persistently seeks its opposite, permanence, control, and meaning in a realm of flux. To see this is to watch the tragic farce unfold, to recognize the futility that fuels desire and the self-delusion that masks it. In the aching silence between moments of pain and fleeting pleasure, a strange relief surfaces not in hope but in surrender. To surrender is not to give in to despair, but to cease the futile struggle against what cannot be changed. It is to lay down the heavy burden of expectation and the ceaseless demand for the world to be otherwise than it is. Here, in this stillness, the ego's frantic voice begins to fade, revealing the cold, serene clarity of what is. No longer bound by illusions, the soul tastes a bitter freedom, an emptiness that is neither void nor terror, but a sober clarity that precedes all peace. The world is a theater of masks, each face a fragile construct born from desire and fear. Beneath the surface, the self is a flicker of light caught in an endless storm, grasping at shadows that slip through trembling fingers. To renounce the world is not to abandon life, but to see it without the veil of fantasy, to encounter existence as it is, stripped of false meaning and futile hope. This renunciation is not a retreat, but a profound turning inward, a recognition that all seeking outside only deepens the wound. The soul's hunger is not for more, but for less illusion, less attachment, less noise. In this paradox lies the path to peace, not through conquest, but through relinquishment. The great irony of existence is that only by ceasing to chase the self can the self be known. Only by surrendering the will can the will find rest. This is the secret whispered by the shadows, that freedom is born not of possession but of loss, not of accumulation but of letting go. To dwell in this awareness is to walk a lonely path, for the world resists the dissolution of its illusions with desperate clamor. Yet in solitude, the soul confronts its own rawness, its naked essence beyond all masks. There is no comfort here, only the cold light of truth that strips away all false warmth. Yet within this bareness, a strange beauty emerges, the beauty of being unadorned, of standing exposed to the vast silence beyond words. The will, which drives the soul through storm and shadow, is at once its prison and its tormentor. It is the voice that whispers promises it can never keep, the flame that burns the hands of the seeker. To see this is to meet the abyss within, the dark mirror where desire and despair reflect one another endlessly. And yet, within this meeting, a space opens, a space where the ceaseless movement halts, and the soul breathes in the stillness between suffering and silence. Peace is not a prize for the victorious, but the residue of defeat, the quiet aftermath when the will finally ceases its desperate grasping. This peace is not softness, but the steel of acceptance forged in the fire of unyielding truth. It is a peace that does not deny pain, but embraces it as the pulse of life itself. In this embrace, the soul finds a strange kind of solace, a resting place beyond all striving, beyond all becoming. To renounce the world is to renounce the self that clings and resists, the phantom forged in the fire of endless craving. It is to see the world as a reflection of this phantom, a place of transient forms and shifting shadows. The soul's true home is not here, but in the empty space beneath the storm, a place of quietude beyond the restless waves of desire and despair. In this renunciation, the soul does not vanish into nothingness, but dissolves into the vastness of what is, a drop merging with the ocean of silent being. There is no triumph in this dissolution, only the fading of the last flicker of will, the disappearance of the self that once sought meaning in shadows. What remains is a calm so profound it cannot be grasped, only known as the absence of all grasping. The night enfolds the world in its dark embrace, and the soul, weary of illusion, finally lies down in the stillness beneath the stars. Here, in this silence, the burden of existence is laid aside, and the restless heart ceases its trembling dance. The soul's hunger is stilled, not by fulfillment, but by the serene emptiness that comes when desire is no more. Thus, the journey inward is not a path of conquest or joy, but of quiet surrender, a slow, deliberate dissolving of the will's tumult into the calm of what simply is. The soul learns to breathe in the dark, to find home not in the world, but in the cold clarity of truth itself. And in that stillness, the last illusion fades, and the soul disappears into the vast silence beyond the self. The pain that gnaws at the heart is no accident, no punishment meted out by some cruel fate. It is the very essence of existence, the shadow cast by being itself. To suffer is not a flaw in the design, but the design itself, the engine that drives the will's endless agitation. Each wound is a testament to life's unyielding grip, a quiet proclamation that nothing born of desire can escape the decay it summons. The world is a crucible where suffering is forged into the very substance of consciousness, and no refuge can be found beyond its merciless law. Illusion is the veil draped over this harshness, a fragile curtain trembling between the soul and the void. It is the eternal promise whispered in every longing, the mirage shimmering just beyond reach, urging the will onward despite its certain doom. The mind fashions these illusions with desperate artistry, a self to cherish, a future to hope for, a meaning to clutch in the darkness. Yet, each of these is but smoke, dissolving the moment it is grasped, leaving the soul colder and more alone than before. The dance with illusion is the slow unraveling of the spirit, a subtle betrayal that the will inflicts upon itself in its blindness. Detachment is not indifference, nor is it the brittle coldness of a heart hardened by despair. It is the quiet recognition that all things held dear are ephemeral, that clinging only tightens the chains of suffering. To detach is to see the world without the colors of desire, to regard the passing forms as they are transient, insubstantial, forever slipping through the fingers of longing. It is a stillness within the storm, a silent witness to the relentless flux. This detachment is the soul's slow unbinding, the gentle loosening of the grip that binds it to the fleeting and the false. The will's craving is a serpent coiled in the depth, ever hungry, never sated. It coils tighter with each attempt at fulfillment, strangling the very life it seeks to preserve. Every attainment bursts a new want, every comfort seeds a new torment. The soul is trapped in this spiral, a captive dancer moving to the rhythm of its own undoing. To confront this truth is to look into an abyss without end, to see the futility of all striving laid bare in the cold light of reason, and yet to look away is only to deepen the blindness that sustains the torment. There is a strange beauty in this bleakness, not a sweetness that soothes, but a clarity that cleanses. The soul, stripped of its illusions, is like a tree in winter, bare and exposed to the merciless wind. It bears no fruit, offers no shade, but stands in honest witness to the truth of its own condition. This bareness is the seedbed of peace, For only when the false is removed can the genuine be revealed. The soul learns to endure the cold, not as a punishment, but as the natural state of being, the necessary silence before any true voice can be heard. Suffering dissolves the self's pretensions, exposing the fragile core beneath the masks we wear. It strips away the stories told to ward off emptiness, revealing the rawness of existence, as it is not as we wish it to be. In this exposure, the soul confronts the loneliness that is its birthright, the solitude that no other can fill. It is here, in the void of companionship and illusion, that the deepest encounter with truth occurs. The soul meets itself as a stranger, naked and unadorned, and the trembling begins to subside. To renounce is not a violent rejection, but a quiet letting go, a gentle release of all that binds and blinds. It is the soft surrender of the will's relentless demands, the gradual loosening of the ties that anchor the soul to suffering. This renunciation is a passage through shadow, a journey into the stillness beneath the noise. It is neither victory nor defeat, but a meeting with what is unmediated and unyielding. In this meeting, the soul finds a strange grace, not the grace of salvation, but the grace of acceptance. The world remains unchanged, indifferent to the soul's awakening or despair. Mountains crumble, stars burn out, and the river flows onward, without pause or pity. Yet, within this eternal flux, the soul discovers a refuge, not of place or possession, but of perception. To see without desire, to hear without expectation, to be without grasping this, is the quiet rebellion of the detached spirit. It is a rebellion not against the world, but against the will that entangles it, a turning inward that reveals the vast, silent expanse beyond suffering. This expanse is not a void to be feared, but a space to be inhabited, a resting place beyond the storm. It is the ground beneath all becoming, the silence behind all sound. The soul, weary of its endless wandering, sinks into this vastness, shedding the last illusions like autumn leaves. In this falling away, there is no loss, only a fading into the great stillness from which all things arise and to which all must return. Here, the hunger dies, the striving ceases, and the soul breathes in the cold clarity of what is unadorned, unshaped, unbroken. The self dissolves like mist beneath the morning sun, leaving only the bare presence of being. There is no triumph here, no crown of achievement, only the profound peace of surrender, the quiet acceptance of the eternal now. And in that silence, the soul is finally free. The will's fury is relentless, a tempest that rages within the confines of a fragile vessel. It knows no mercy, no respite. Its commands are the murmurs of a tyrant, insatiable and blind, driving the soul into endless cycles of desire and despair. Each fulfilled craving breeds 1,000 more, a hydra whose heads multiply with every strike. To exist is to be caught in this ceaseless storm, to feel the cruel pull of longing that never ceases, never abates. The will is the root of suffering, the eternal architect of our torment. Yet, it is also the only reality that animates the soul's dark dance. Illusions rise like phantoms in the gloom, offering glimpses of solace that vanish as soon as they are grasped. The self spins these illusions from threads of hope, identity, and memory, delicate fabrics woven to shield the mind from the naked horror of impermanence. Yet these fabrics are thin, and the void beneath is never far. Every moment of joy carries the shadow of loss. Every triumph foreshadows the decay to come. To see through the veil is to confront a solitude so profound it silences the heart's chatter. The soul stands exposed, stripped of its comforting fictions, and the world appears as a vast wasteland of fleeting shapes and sounds, empty of substance. Detachment creeps slowly, a frost that numbs without freezing. It is not the absence of feeling, but the cessation of clinging. To detach is to recognize the futility of possession and to loosen the fingers clenched in fear and desire. The soul becomes a witness, watching the parade of phenomena pass without grasping or recoil. In this quiet observation, the restless turmoil of the will begins to ebb, leaving behind a cold clarity that neither rejoices nor laments. Detachment is the shadow of renunciation, the first breath of freedom that cools the fever of endless want. The irony of existence is cruel. The will demands satisfaction, yet satisfaction deepens its hunger. Every attainment is but a fleeting balm, a brief lull in the storm. The soul is caught in a labyrinth of longing with no exit, forever circling the phantom of completion. To know this is to see the will's nature laid bare, a relentless striving toward a horizon that recedes with each step. There is no destination, no haven, only the eternal chase. And still, the will pushes on, blind to its own torment, weaving suffering into the fabric of being. Yet within this grim revelation, there is a peculiar grace. The soul, worn thin by struggle, learns the bitter sweetness of acceptance. Like a tree stripped bare by winter winds, it stands naked against the sky, bearing no fruit but holding firm. In this vulnerability lies strength, not the strength of conquest, but the strength to endure what is without flinching. The soul surrenders the illusions that once shielded it, and in this surrender finds a somber dignity. To endure suffering without delusion is to touch a depth few dare to know, a profound solitude where the self is both lost and found. Suffering dismantles the self's elaborate theater, dissolving the masks that hide the void beneath. It is a relentless unmasking, a slow unveiling of the soul's raw, exposed core. In this nakedness lies the truest encounter with existence, not in the comfort of stories told to soothe, but in the stark silence of what remains when all stories fall away. The soul meets its own solitude, a loneliness that no other presence can fill. This solitude is not emptiness, but a vast, uncharted space where the self is confronted and dissolved. Renunciation is the delicate art of letting go, a quiet unwinding of the bonds that tether the soul to suffering. It is not a violent rejection of life, but a subtle yielding to its immutable truth. To renounce is to cease the desperate struggle against the currents of existence, and to float, unresisting, in their flow. This yielding is a surrender not to defeat, but to clarity, a calm acceptance of the world's unchangeable nature. In renunciation, the soul finds a strange refuge, a sanctuary not of the world, but beyond it. The world continues its indifferent turning, heedless of the soul's awakening or despair. Mountains erode, rivers wind, stars burn and fade in an eternal cycle that knows no beginning or end. Yet, within this indifferent flux, the soul discovers a profound freedom, the freedom to perceive without grasping, to witness without desire. This freedom is the quiet revolt of detachment, a turning away from the tyranny of the will toward the vast expanse of being beyond want. It is a turning inward to the silence beneath the storm. This silence is not emptiness, but fullness, the fullness of presence, unclouded by illusion. It is the ground upon which all becoming rests, the stillness from which all sound arises and to which all sound returns. The soul, exhausted by its ceaseless wandering, descends into this silence, shedding the final illusions like autumn leaves blown by the wind. In this falling away, there is no loss, only a dissolving into the great stillness that is the heart of existence. Here, the hunger fades, the striving ceases, and the soul inhales the cold clarity of what simply is. The self dissolves like mist beneath the morning sun, leaving only the bare presence of being unshaped, unadorned, unbroken. There is no victory here, no crown to wear, only the profound peace of surrender, the quiet acceptance of the eternal now. And in this vast silence, the soul is free at last, drifting beyond the last flicker of will into the boundless calm of what is. The self is a phantom born upon the restless currents of time, a fragile apparition caught between birth and decay. It clings desperately to the fleeting forms that drift through consciousness, weaving a tapestry of identity from shadows and echoes. Yet beneath this delicate facade lies the unyielding truth of impermanence, a truth that the will resists with every fiber, grasping blindly for permanence in a world defined by change. To witness this resistance is to see the soul's quiet tragedy unfold, the slow unmaking of all that it holds dear. Illusion, then, is the soul's refuge and its prison. It is the soft prison walls crafted from dreams and desire, spun so finely that they seem transparent, almost real. Within these walls, the will dances, believing itself free, yet it remains bound by the very fantasies it creates. The world is a stage of appearances, a ceaseless play where meaning is borrowed and borrowed again, never truly owned. The soul's task is not to extinguish these illusions with cruelty, but to look upon them without attachment, to hold them lightly like mist in the morning sun, knowing their nature is to dissolve. Detachment reveals itself slowly, like the first frost that silences the earth beneath its crystalline breath. It is not the cold numbness of despair, but a gentle quieting of the storm within. The soul learns to watch without intervening, to feel without clinging, to be present without resistance. In this witnessing, the will's ceaseless demands lose their urgency, their grip loosens, and the soul finds a fragile freedom in the stillness between impulses. Detachment is the threshold where suffering begins to lose its dominion, where the soul steps back from the precipice and sees the abyss with unflinching eyes. The will's nature is paradoxical. It drives the soul toward life, yet it is the source of suffering. It demands fulfillment, yet fulfillment deepens its thirst. Every satisfaction births a new desire. Every pleasure conceals a pang of loss. The soul, trapped in this cruel cycle, mistakes the fleeting shadows for substance, the transient for the eternal. To see through this deception is to gaze into a mirror cracked by time, to recognize the endless chase for meaning as the very cause of meaninglessness. There is no escape, only the bare acknowledgement of the will's insatiable hunger. In the heart of this bleak revelation, the soul discovers an austere beauty, not a beauty of light and warmth, but of bare branches etched against the grey sky. The soul, stripped of its false comforts, stands exposed to the wind of reality, its roots sunk deep in the soil of truth. There is no comfort here, only the honest endurance of what is. This endurance is a strength born not of denial, but of acceptance, a silent fortitude that meets suffering not with resistance, but with open eyes and steady breath. Suffering dismantles the self's grand illusions, tearing away the delicate veils that conceal the void beneath. It is a relentless uncovering, a slow peeling back of layers, until only the naked essence remains. In this exposure, the soul confronts the fundamental solitude that is its nature, the loneliness no other can assuage. This solitude is not emptiness, but a vast, silent space where the self dissolves and the soul encounters itself without mask or story. It is the abyss from which all illusions fall away and where true seeing begins. Renunciation is the soul's gentle yielding to this truth, a quiet release of the grasping hand and the clenched heart. It is not defeat, but surrender, the cessation of struggle against the immovable laws of existence. To renounce is to enter a realm beyond craving, beyond hope, beyond fear, where the soul rests not on the shifting sands of desire, but on the solid rock of acceptance. This surrender is a passage through shadow into a deeper light, a movement inward that reveals the vast silence at the core of being. The world turns on, indifferent and unchanging, heedless of the soul's awakening or despair. Mountains crumble, rivers flow, stars blaze and die in a silent dance that defies meaning or purpose. Yet within this eternal flux, the soul finds a sanctuary, not of place but of perception. To see without yearning, to listen without expectation, to be without grasping, this is the quiet revolution of detachment. It is a turning away from the will's tyranny toward the vast openness beyond suffering. This openness is not emptiness, but presence, the fullness of being untouched by illusion. It is the foundation beneath all change, the silence behind all sound. The soul, weary from endless wandering, sinks into this silence, shedding the last illusions like autumn leaves scattered by the wind. In this falling away, there is no loss, only the merging into the great stillness from which all things arise and to which all things return. Here, the hunger dies, the striving ceases, and the soul inhales the cold clarity of what simply is. The self dissolves like morning mist under the harsh light of day, leaving only bare presence, unshaped, unadorned, unbroken. There is no triumph, no crown to claim, only the profound peace of surrender, the quiet acceptance of the eternal now. And in this boundless silence, the soul is free, drifting beyond the last flicker of will, swallowed by the vast calm of what is. The self fades into shadow, a whisper lost beneath the vastness of night. No longer does it clutch at the fragments of meaning or cling to the fragile scaffolding of identity. It dissolves like smoke in a wind that knows no direction, neither mourning nor rejoicing, only yielding. The soul, emptied of all striving, rests at last in the profound stillness that is neither presence nor absence, but the very ground of both. Here, in this final surrender, the illusion of separation falls away, and with it the last tremors of desire. The world, with its endless shifting shapes and hollow promises, recedes like a distant dream dissolving in the dawn. There is no need to resist its passing, no hope to hold on to, no fear to evade. The soul has passed beyond all dualities, beyond pleasure and pain, life and death, self and other. It inhabits the silent space where opposites merge and vanish, where the restless tide of will is stilled and nothing remains but the simple fact of being. This being is cold, vast, and quiet, a dark mirror reflecting nothing but the eternal now. In this dark mirror, the soul sees the truth without distortion. The world is empty of lasting substance, the self a fleeting shadow, and all desires but waves breaking upon an endless shore. There is no refuge, no sanctuary beyond this realization. Yet, paradoxically, in this void lies a strange and terrible peace, not the comfort of warmth, but the austere calm of acceptance. To know this is to be released from the endless torment of want, freed from the cruel tyranny of hope. The final peace is not a place to reach, but a letting go, the relinquishing of all grasping, all striving, all clinging to form and meaning. It is the quiet dissolution of the will's restless flame, the extinguishing of the last flicker of the self's bright illusion. In this extinguishing, the soul does not die, nor does it triumph. It simply is a silent witness to the vastness beyond all becoming, a shadow melting into the infinite night. And as the soul slips beyond the horizon of self, beyond the reach of desire and despair, it enters the great stillness from which all life flows, and to which all life returns. There is no farewell, no final word, no lingering trace, only the endless, unbroken silence that precedes and follows all things. The candle of clarity burns low, its flame no longer flickering against the dark, but vanished, leaving only the serene darkness of truth. This is the end and the beginning, without distinction, the dissolution of the will into the boundless quiet, the renunciation of all that was held dear, and the profound surrender to what simply is. Here, in the depths beyond suffering, beyond illusion, beyond self, the soul finds nothing and everything, the infinite stillness, the eternal peace, the vastness without edge or center. And in this silent abyss, the soul is at home not as a self, but as the dark, boundless presence that is all and none, forever lost, forever found, forever still.